He most likely never would have done this before removing the needle. This entire battle, Killua was thinking more like a hunter than he ever had prior. Hey, what's up everybody? It's LeeLos, and today we're talking about why Killua versus the Ortho siblings is genius. Stay steady in pursuit of your dreams and goals. You're born to win, you're made for greatness, and I definitely believe in you guys. Keep up the great work each and every day. So Killua versus the Ortho siblings is a battle between one of the most genius characters in Hunter x Hunter versus two opponents that have one of the most creative Hatsu abilities in the entire series. Today we're going to analyze every single power-up and ability these characters display to explain overall why Killua versus the Ortho siblings is genius. These fights begin with Killua attempting to disrupt the selection process. The selection process was a system the Royal Guards were using to create new Chimera Ant hybrid soldiers. Pito was using its Hatsu ability to create puppets from other humans, use them to attack 5 million people with the goal of creating 50,000 new soldiers. The humans that survived this selection process actually end up becoming the 5,000 Chimera Ant hybrids that Periston acquires after the Chimera Ant arc. They initially planned for there to be 50,000 soldiers, so the fact that there was only 5,000 was likely due to the efforts of Killua and Morel disrupting the process. Initially, Gon wanted to help Killua with disrupting the selection process, but Killua refuses and doesn't let Gon help him. The reason for this is never fully explained. Killua tells Gon that this would be easier for him to handle on his own, but immediately after that, he acts a bit out of character, telling Gon to stay hidden no matter how many people die in this mission. Let me know your thoughts in the comments as to why you think Killua didn't let Gon help him with this selection process mission. I always thought that Killua was lying here, but let me know what you guys think. Right before Killua leaves on his own, he notices Melioron's presence, even though Melioron was using his Hatsu ability at the same time. This scene, especially in the manga, is very similar to the scene where Kid Gojo notices Toji standing behind him. In complete honesty, I think this scene with Killua actually inspired the Kid Gojo noticing Toji scene. As Killua was traveling and disrupting the selection process, he notices the aura from Netero training in the mountains and avoids that direction. Pito states that Killua has been on the move for 30 hours straight, meaning every feat that Killua performs, he's doing this while tired. He might not even be at full power. We don't know the exact rank of the ants that ambush Killua in the forest, but they're stated to be Leol's army. Leol is a squadron leader. One of Leol's officers is giving this army orders. Typically, officer ants don't take orders from other officer ants. This implies that a large portion of these guys are peon ants, but the Ortho siblings are implied to be officer ants. However, even if these guys are peon ants, the feats Killua performs are massively impressive. He's exhausted while taking out hordes of these guys in an instant, and he's not even using his Hatsu ability, especially when you compare him to Phantom Troop members like Shalnark, who are getting physically overpowered by just one peon ant, and might not have been able to defeat it without using his Hatsu ability. Immediately after this, Killua was being hit by long-range, potentially even Nen-enhanced sniper bullets. After being hit twice, Killua was already fast enough to be able to dodge them at point-blank range. However, on the fourth shot, Killua does a makeshift version of N. That way he can identify the trajectory of the attack and find out where the enemy is. This scene where Killua extends his aura and uses it as a baby version of N is essentially the exact same thing that Gon does when he fights Knuckle. In order to have your aura qualify as N, you need to be able to extend it to a radius of at least 2 meters and maintain that for longer than a minute. Killua could only extend his aura 1/10 of that distance. This is more evidence that characters like Gon and Killua still have a long way to go before becoming proper Nen masters, especially when you compare them to characters like Zeno, who has a 300 meter N radius. This scene where Killua follows Icalgo willingly into what Icalgo states is a trap set up to defeat Killua is one of the biggest pieces of evidence that Killua is fighting differently now that he no longer has the Nen needle. He most likely never would have done this before removing the needle. This entire battle, Killua was thinking more like a hunter than he ever had prior. The Ortho siblings have a duo conditional Nen Hatsu ability. The sister has to attach a pin to the opponent's body, then the brother begins throwing darts at a dartboard, and the enemy is instantly stabbed by a Nen fish the moment the brother's dart hits the board. This is essentially a sure hit technique. It's pretty much the exact same concept as a domain expansion from Jujutsu Kaisen. This might have been where the author of Jujutsu Kaisen got the inspiration for sure hit techniques. The condition that makes this ability so strong is that if the brother misses the final dart, then all of the damage goes back to the siblings. This fight proves the advantage that fighting in a perfect environment can create, and it also shows that hunters can evolve mid-fight when they're pushed beyond their limits. This ability from the Ortho siblings is the most powerful in this cave because the enemy doesn't know where the Ortho siblings are. If they were doing this attack out in the open, all you would have to do is attack the Ortho siblings while they're throwing darts at the board and you could still beat them. But since they're hidden, this makes the ability far more disorienting and dangerous. Really, some of the only characters that could survive this actual situation would be members of the Zoldyck family, people who have mastered the game of darts, or people who have a massive end radius and can locate the Ortho siblings before they finish the game, or some other creative type of Hatsu ability. Someone like Nove might be able to defeat them too. We don't know if this Hatsu ability has a range limit, so maybe if you travel somewhere very far away, the ability stops working, but the fact that Killua survives this fight is really crazy. A large portion of the hunters in this verse would have died in this battle. Killua, due to mastering the game of darts, could tell what dart game the Ortho siblings were playing based on where the darts were appearing. Then for the final dart, he places his hand where he knows the dart is going to appear and grabs it the moment it materializes. This scene is where Killua develops Whirlwind, one part of Godspeed that massively boosts his reaction speed. This ability was something that Killua developed last minute while pushed beyond his limits. Killua, at the start of the Chimera Ant arc, was amazed seeing Gon push beyond his limits and improve his Hatsu ability mid-battle in his fight against Knuckle. And now, here Killua is doing the exact same thing, pushing beyond his limits and evolving his Hatsu ability in his fight against the Ortho siblings. A very interesting narrative element of the Chimera Ant arc is that Killua begins acting more like Gon, and Gon begins acting more like Killua, jumping headfirst into a dangerous battle and throwing hands with no plan at all. Genuinely might be the most Gon Freaksus-like behavior Killua has ever displayed. The reality is, even though this mission was extremely risky, if Killua had never engaged in this fight, he might have never developed Godspeed. So overall, this mission ended up being a massive power-up for Killua. After stopping the final dart, Killua pretends to be defeated and waits for the Ortho siblings to come out of hiding. Then he instantly one-shots both of them. This scene of Killua stopping the dart is also where highball interpretations for Godspeed arise. There's a statement where one of the Ortho siblings says, to pull this feat off, you'd need light speed reaction in order to stop the last dart. But Killua says, it would have been light speed if I didn't know where the dart was going. But since Killua knew where the dart was going, the reaction feat was not exactly the speed of light. If you're power scaling Hunter x Hunter characters and highballing them, this is typically where people say Killua is the speed of light, but in complete honesty, it's more realistic that he's slower than that. You could make an argument for Killua being somewhat faster than lightning due to a statement from Yuppie where he states, if I know where a lightning bolt is coming from, I'll be able to dodge it. So the fact that Killua was blitzing Yuppie, you could use that as an argument to say his reaction and combat speed is somewhat faster than lightning, but in all fairness, even that's debatable because he was also stun locking Yuppie with his attacks at the same time. Realistically, I lean towards saying that Godspeed Killua's reaction speed is the speed of lightning, but even that's debatable. For example, his running speed is calculated and it's not much different than the running speed of Cheetu, and it's really barely even a fraction of the actual speed of lightning. So let me know how fast you think Killua is down in the comments. If you're lowballing him, you could say that his reaction speed is just a few times faster than sound, just slightly faster than his running speed, and if you're highballing him, he would be somewhere in the speed of light range, and then the middle ball interpretation is somewhere around the lightning range. But it should be noted that the difference between the speed of lightning and the speed of light, it's a difference of thousands of times, so it's a pretty big jump. So for example, even if Killua was 10 times faster than lightning, that's still absolutely nothing compared to the speed of light. All that being said, Killua's feat here, where he defeats the Ortho siblings using genius intelligence and developing a new ability on the fly mid-battle, these are some incredible feats from Killua. He most likely never would have even engaged in this fight if he still had the Nen Needle, and the fact that he could pull this off at all when a lot of characters in the verse would have been wiped out here is actually insane. One last thing is the concept of fighting in your perfect environment is also stated again during the Hisoka and Chrollo battle. Oh yeah, this was another thing I meant to say earlier in the video. I just genuinely forgot to, so I'm just gonna add it in here now. Killua actually references Genthru at the start of this mission. When they're talking about Pito's ability to control multiple things at once, They actually give a reference back to Genthru's conditional nen ability, so that's just something that's pretty cool. That someone like Genthru is still getting mentioned this late in the series. That's everything I wanted to say. Thank you guys for watching. I appreciate the views in the comments. Like and subscribe, and I'll see ya on the next one.